Please welcome the Chief Executive Officer of the Downtown Detroit Partnership, Eric B. Larson.
Well, that's a pretty good walk-up song, but I think I would have chose something different. Welcome. For those of you that aren't in downtown all the time, welcome. For those of you that are in downtown, thank you. I think based on that video, you'll see that not only is this an incredible time to be in downtown, the opportunities that we're going to hear today demonstrate a real level of not only commitment, but also tremendous momentum in our downtown. I can't take credit for any of it. We've got an amazing team at the Downtown Detroit Partnership. We've got an amazing board and leadership. We've got incredible partners, both corporate, public, and philanthropic, all of which are grateful for Sandy and his team for bringing the regionals focus to this downtown that is so important not only to the region but to our state. So thank you, Detroit Regional Chamber, for doing this day. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about some of the things that you've already heard and many of the things that you're going to hear throughout the day. I'm going to cover a couple of the key stats on where the downtown is at this moment in time. But I think what's most important is the idea that we as an organization have been at this for over 100 years. We've been clearly focused on making sure that the things that you actually already have heard this morning, the inclusivity, the clean, the safe, the inviting, the welcoming, the actual activity of feeling like this is your home is what we've been about for a very, very long time and continue to be very focused on and will hopefully, with your support, be at for the next 100 years. I probably won't be around for that full-time 100 years, but I'm excited to be where I am right now, and I'm excited to be a partner with all of you in the room. These slides change a little slow, so I gotta adjust my clicking. Downtown Detroit today is a number of things. It's not only the region's most vibrant urban core, but it is a place of transition. As we heard from Richard Florida, the old moniker of the Central Business District is gone. It has been gone, quite frankly, in our dictionary for a number of decades. We have always thought of this as a center of connectivity or a central connectivity district. It's a place that we have really developed a backdrop of social and innovative and diverse activities that have created a number of opportunities for people both living, working, and playing in our city. It also is obviously known globally for the amazing architecture, incredible food scene. We've already heard how hard it is to get a reservation, and so many other opportunities if you're just coming down to visit or if you actually want to make it a longer stay and live in the city. The way that we track our project is through data. We heard Richard Florida talk about having to go to Ontario to get some of this data. I will tell you, we've got a set of data that you can use to tell this story and also track our progress, and so please lean on it. But I'm going to run through a couple key stats. Over the last decade, we've had a 40% increase in our downtown residential population, and that trend continues. The overall demographics of the population in the core of our city is extremely diverse. Antoine just talked about the fact that we need to be inclusive. Detroit, downtown Detroit, is the most representative, inclusive community and neighborhood we have in the city and in the region, quite frankly, and we're very proud of that. We obviously have lots of work. We have to continue to focus on all aspects of everyone's life, but the reality is we're attracting and we're inviting and we're actually appealing to a very diverse set of individuals. Our downtown Detroit visitorship, while we took a little bit of dip as was talked about during the pandemic, has never been stronger. The interest for people to come from outside of the city, and this is non-daytime work population, to come into the city is stronger than it's ever been. We were at a high of 37 million pre-pandemic. We're on our way back to that high water mark, and I think we'll exceed it in 2023. And that's an indication of not only the offerings that the city has, but the way that the city responds, the way that people feel welcome when they're moving around and engaging in the city, and that to us is very important. I think the other thing that is extremely telling in the data that we track on a regular basis is the fact that the weekend traffic activity is actually back to pre-pandemic levels. So those that are actually coming in and enjoying a dinner or enjoying shopping in our small businesses or just enjoying the ability to have some world-class public spaces is back. People have again recognized that. And one of the most welcoming and most rewarding aspects of what happened during the pandemic was not only the acceleration that Richard Florida talked about in terms of the transition that this city has already been under, but the reclaiming of the downtown by the residents of Detroit. For a while, we felt like Detroit was all about the work population, those people that were coming during the day and leaving at night. And during the pandemic, we saw a huge uptick in the Detroit resident population really embracing and understanding and recognizing that our downtown is their downtown. What we do is for them and only created the ability through them. So that was extremely rewarding. On the residential side, we focus a lot on residential. Residential is a 24/7 business, so it doesn't leave. The benefits, the economic benefits are huge. Our residential rates have continued to climb. We're at rates now that support very closely market rate deals with a lot of additional subsidy. We're not all the way there, but we're getting very close. At the same time, we recognize that we've got to have affordability within the downtown. The administration has been very clear that we need to make sure that affordability continues to be a mainstay in the downtown. A third of the residential units in our downtown rent for less than $1,000, and 12% of those rent for less than $500. That's not a perfect formula, but it's definitely better than a number of other major metropolitan markets, and it's an area that we're constantly focused on and continuing to track. The multifamily vacancy, or as I like to think about it, the occupancy. Virtually every project that is delivered is full. Our vacancy rates are much lower than many aspects of the region's residential markets. Every project that is delivered has greater demand than the supply that we can offer, and we have many new units coming online. Another great indicator of our success and our stability is the property values. For a long time in Detroit, property values really languished. There wasn't much increased investment. There wasn't much increased valuation in the investments that were made. As you can see in this graph, that has really ticked up. We're at $4.6 billion of property valuation in the commercial property, and those investments and as the additional value is created in the downtown, that number just continues to trend up, which is a very, very positive aspect of not only the tax base that is important to operate the city, but also the return that people are making on their investments. Hospitality is getting healthy again. We're back to pre-pandemic levels of occupancy, and equally as important, we're back to pre-pandemic levels of average daily room rates. Again, another great indication of the health of our downtown and the rebound in which we're seeing coming out of the pandemic, but more importantly, the trend that was already occurring pre-pandemic, as Richard Florida had pointed out. Over 700 new hotel rooms are already in the process of being delivered, and that doesn't even come close to including those that have already been announced and some of the new funding at the state level for some of the convention-related kinds of hotel rooms that we need in order to support the level of activity that we have. Now, we heard a lot about the change in the office worker. I've heard a couple different stats. We happen to track our stats here locally, so I think our stats are as good as anybody's. We have not forgotten about the fact that this still is a core of our city that needs to focus and embrace the work population. You can see our largest employers here on this screen, but I think what's more important is the next graph, the graph that tracks those that are actually coming back into the office. Pre-pandemic, we had actually not 56,000, but 80,000 workers in the core of the downtown, and we're about 20 to 25,000. We are actually doing really well on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, but Monday and Friday, people still like to take a little bit more time to get dressed and to get back into the office. That's an area that we need to continue to work on. We'll make up some ground, obviously, in 2023, but the reality is we'll never get back to that 100% in the office 5 days a week, and quite frankly, I don't think we need to. What I think we need to do is continue to attract new office, new opportunities, and new technology that it really is continuing to create a resilient and sustained environment. We track a lot of data, as I mentioned, and again, I encourage you to follow that data at our website. Looking ahead, we've got a number of initiatives. We've got a RAP grant that was going to help produce improvements to 3 of our downtown public spaces, and then a number of other projects throughout the city. We've got a growing investment of $3.8 billion currently, and that number continues to grow through people's confidence in the downtown. We have the centers of innovation that have already been discussed. We're excited to be working with the University of Michigan, Related, and Ilitch organization as a fiduciary. And most importantly, we've got large events. I'm not going to touch on these. My good friend Bud Denker and Claude Molinari will touch on the Grand Prix, the draft, and the Final Four. But those 3 events alone represent over $500 million of economic spend and a world lens on Detroit and where Detroit's going. So for me, I'm excited of where we are. I'm excited of where we're headed. I can't thank you all enough for the partnership that you represent. And on behalf of our entire team and our leadership, have a great day. And I know we're going to hear a lot more about what's happening in Detroit and the opportunities for you to get involved. So thank you.